Now don't get me wrong here, the remake to Resident Evil is one of the best games ever made, and I wholeheartedly believe that. But I believe the first Resident Evil would benefit from having a remake. In today's video, I'm going to discuss why I think the first Resident Evil deserves a fresh remake for the franchise. If you haven't already, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on videos like this in the future. It would mean a lot. When it comes to why I think the classic debut title deserves a second remake, I'm going to be breaking this down into three categories. Those reasons are 1 being tone, 2 being fidelity, and 3 being gameplay. Each of these reasons are exactly why it had a remake to begin with, and having the original story remade to today's standards will only further benefit the start of it all. Starting with tone. Back in the day on the PlayStation 1, the original Resident Evil was one of the scariest games ever made. It set the bar for survival horror and impressed enough players to receive a sequel, and a sequel, and a sequel. You get what I'm saying here. The tone to the game was exactly what it needed to be at the time, but over time, the tone starts to drop on that fear factor. Especially in today's standards, you'll hop into the original Resident Evil today, and sure, you can tell yourself all you want that it's atmospherically scary, but if you put it side by side with a game released today, you will think Resident Evil looks a little goofy. Specifically the voice acting. So what did they do in 2002? Capcom set out to give Resident Evil the tone it deserved. They gave us realistic cinematics with beautiful voice acting that at the time and to this day hold up very well. Just looking at these two scenes, you can see and feel the difference between the two.
Discovery. You guys are idiots. No one understands its real value.
So, you're going to steal all the research?
Better yet, I'm going to show you the tyrant.
Barry!
Sorry, Jill.
It's magnificent.
For the sake of this thing.
You know, I hate goodbyes.
Barry!
Forgive me.
Now, I understand we're looking at a 6-year gap in improvements for video games, but you can't always say that. Legacy of Kain: Soul Reaver was a title released in 1999, and the quality of storytelling with its dialogue are leagues upon leagues above the original Resident Evil. The remake of Resident Evil was a massive improvement on tone, but I still feel like it's missing something. Just look at the remakes of Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 for instance. Say what you will about those games, but cinematically, they are extraordinary games in storytelling. I feel the fear within Leon, Claire, and every other character in the games. And sure, in the Resident Evil 1 remake, I do feel scared, but I really don't see or feel the fear within the characters. There's a part of me that still feels a tad of cheese factor while watching the cinematics. I can't tell if it's due to the mixing with the music and dialogue or what exactly, but I know for a fact if it was done today, they could and would deliver strong cinematics, strong dialogue, and a strong foundation around the game as a whole. Let's talk about the fidelity of the game. Resident Evil Remake is, to this day, one of the prettiest games ever made when it comes to atmosphere. If you can call scary as hell pretty, that is. The Spencer Mansion in Resident Evil Remake is so iconically horrifying, and the game is 21 years old. Each room and hallway you creep by feels lived in and claustrophobic. During my first playthrough of the remake, I was almost too scared to run in the game because I was so paranoid of what might be around the corner. And there are a few games that do that today, but imagine the Spencer Mansion in the RE engine. Imagine creeping around its halls in the same engine of the Resident Evil games, starting with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Each year since 2017, Capcom have given us one of the prettiest video game engines out, and they've improved it every single year. Look at Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's some of the prettiest gameplay I've ever seen in my life, and I desperately need that for the first game. Walking around that mansion in RE engine would be incredible and would add to the tone of the game.
Stand back!
grab my hand!
Barry.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
And lastly, let's talk about the gameplay. Do not get me wrong here, I am a huge fan of the fixed camera angles and the tank controls. I think it's a form of gameplay that needs to be brought back in games, and I'm thankful we have indie titles such as Tormented Souls that give us a spiritual revival of a sorts with that. With that being said, there are a lot of players out there that won't play the Resident Evil remake because they're just not fans of that form of gameplay. It's a gameplay mechanic that no longer exists really, and those players are severely missing out on one of the best entries in the franchise. The most recent remakes have been turned into an over-the-shoulder third-person experience, and they could easily do that here. It would add a whole new perspective for the folks that have already played the remake, and it'll encourage new players to hop in as well. And this is why we need another remake of the first Resident Evil. There are many other reasons why it would benefit Capcom and the players to have another remake, but I would like to hope this paints a clear picture on just how amazing it would be. The technology we have today would turn something great into something perfect. Or something perfect into something more perfect. I love the original Resident Evil remake, but I can't deny seeing the first Resident Evil in the RE engine wouldn't be incredible. What do you think? Do you think Resident Evil should have another remake? Let me know down in the comments below, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and it's a nice encouragement to keep creating content. And until next time, take it easy, bubs.